Hi, welcome back to Wisdom in the Night. I'm Betty Swan, your host, and I'm really glad you're tuning into this show. I try to have people on this show from every walk of life that maybe you will find something or hear something that's the answer to what you've been going through. Tonight, I have someone on the show who's a little bit different. She is very much the individual. As long as I've known her, that's the thing that's attracted me to her. And your first look at her, Mariah Jones, and you're going to go, well, I see what you're talking about, Betty. So let's find out all about Mariah. Yay, Mariah.
Hi, Betty. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. You're one of the first people I met when we came here. You're great. But I want to know about you. I know that you're a fashion stylist. So what do you do?
So there are a lot of different things that you can do in fashion styling. I'm not a designer, so I don't draw or make up clothes. But I love them. I get to play with them. So I can work with somebody on how to dress better for a particular job or a situation or a new stage of life, how to just tweak some things to just improve your everyday life. I also assist on photo shoots. I work on photo shoots for catalogs or commercials, and also with showrooms. That's another one of my favorites. So I get
What do you mean showrooms? Like what?
Showrooms are generally not open to the public, but it's something that the designer has. I will take all of their clothing from one season, and I will help them decide which outfits to display, which looks. I might put them on mannequins or hang them and complete them with jewelry and accessories. It's a little bit like a painter, but using clothing. So I'm not a painter. I can't do that. I wish I could. But I get to use fabric and use the cut of the clothing to make a beautiful display and try to represent what the designer was doing for that season.
So where is that display? Is it where you say the public can't see it? Who does see it?
Yeah, so that's for buyers. Large stores like Bloomingdale's or Macy's or even boutiques would go to a designer's showroom and decide what they want to carry in the season ahead.
Well, I'm a Texan, and I know how women from Texas love to dress. So do you ever have any buyers from Texas come and look at your things?
People come from all over the country, and usually I get really invested right when I'm putting up the design, and then I step away and it's all the designers. It's all theirs, and they have all the relationships. And
do you have like long-term relations with the designers? Like they like what you do and they use you over and over and over?
Yeah, and I come and I bring my own team. I'll decide what's going on there, and then I'll bring my team to help me make it happen much faster. But it's a lot of hands-on, and it's a lot of very creative work. It's really fun.
Well, now you have a picture on your Facebook page of you when you were a little girl. And it was, I mean, you look at that little girl and you go, I know where she's headed. I know where she's headed. But what were you telling me about how you dressed then? What was that?
Well, I'm telling you that everybody else probably knew I was going into fashion well before I did. I didn't know what I was going to do. But when I was a young kid, my mom, she tells me later, and I can see in the pictures too, I used to wear maybe like 2 or 3 dresses layered on top of each other.
At the same time?
Yeah, at the same time. It created a different look. And also in the middle of the day, I could have a costume change. So I could decide what I wanted to wear a little bit.
One time I read an article by Rihanna where she said when she dresses, she picks 2 of the most completely opposite things that you would ever put together.
Yeah.
And then she figures out how to put it together and give it a great look.
Oh, yeah. You'll always end up with something unique and interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you kind of think that way too?
Yeah, I tend to start with one thing that I really feel like wearing. And I've never been obsessed with clothing, but it's just another outlet. It's another way to start my day and say, like, I want to own this day. How do I want to feel today?
All right.
So you can do that with all the...
All right, so you've got these great tats. Tell us about them.
So this one is a rather traditional Japanese style, and it always gets quite a lot of looks. This one as well, so colorful. I've had them both for a very long time, and I think it's unusual to see a woman with really large tattoos. So a lot of times people think it's an actual shirt. And I also, have to sometimes stop people from just wanting to touch it.
Well, I can see that because
Yeah.
it looks like a blouse because it's scalloped on the end.
And it fits very well with my musculature.
All right. So now you grew up in Oregon, right? I remember you're telling me that.
Yeah.
Did you come from an unusual family, or were you the only unusual child in the family?
I am a black sheep in a family of black sheep. We are. It's very hard to stand out in my family, and also in the community that I grew up in. It was really creative. A lot of theater and dance and arts, and I grew up with all that stuff just surrounding me. So by the time I got into school, I realized at some point everybody was not just like me. But I love people, and so even though I was a little shy when I was young, I got along with lots of different kinds of people. So that helped me fight through that shyness and also fight through the fact that I was different, that I felt different.
You did feel different.
Yeah, I
Always?
did. I always tried to be normal. And I still am not exactly sure what normal is, but I think we make up an idea in our head of, some normal jobs and normal ways to look and a normal way to have a family or what have you. And I was pretty sure I was never going to fit into exactly that, no matter how hard I tried.
Right. I don't like to do anything that everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Like if it's a handbag, I don't want to carry it. If it's anything, I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to be different.
Well, I tried.
You did? It
I
didn't
did
work,
try.
huh?
No, but the nice thing was that means that I got to sort of put my eye on a lot of different kinds of people, and I wanted to relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. I often felt like an outsider, but I had good friends. I always had some kind of friends around me, no matter how distant we probably actually were.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mariah, a lot of people don't understand that God makes you the way He wants you.
Yeah.
It says in 139th Psalm that before you were even in your mother's womb, I knew you.
Yeah.
And I knew what I wanted you to be like.
Yeah.
And so He likes you quirky. He made you that way because He wanted you to be that way. And that's why you find your greatest happiness in being that way.
Yeah.
So, have you always known God? Have you always walked with Him?
No, my family, I was pretty much raised atheist, agnostic, somewhere in between there, depending on the year, I guess. But both my parents had grown up with Catholicism and that belief system, and then they found through different things in their life, they couldn't consolidate that. They couldn't make that way of life work with what they were seeing in the world. So how I said that being unique and being different was for me just something natural, they also felt the same way. But instead of investigating, and it took me years to do this, investigating, who is God with me? Who am I with God? Who is that? What is that? They just were able to throw that out altogether. And so had lived their lives just without any kind of, without any solid rock of a God that they knew and loved and that loved them. So it wasn't until I was in my 30s, early 30s, I guess, that I finally, one last person asked me, what do you believe? And I couldn't answer it yet again. And so where all my life I had just really been trained, I think, to reject not just God, but especially Christianity and Christians. We have assumptions about that. And so I rejected all of that and wasn't willing to investigate any further until my 30s. There was one day somebody asked me, what do you believe? And I was like, that's personal, I don't know. And I felt so uncomfortable. Not just with the question, but I finally felt uncomfortable that I couldn't answer that for myself. So that was the day I became open to knowing. And then just little by little, I think people that were surrounding me exposed me to different things. I think I told you this story before about a boyfriend that I had at the time. And I think he had been raised Christian, but was not living that way. And, you can fill in the blanks with that, but he had a really normal sort of difficult club life and things like that. So one day he's walking down the street and he called me on the phone and he said, "Hey, this woman, she stopped me in Times Square and she just prophesied over me, and it was amazing, and I need to get back to God, and I need to do what Jesus is wanting me to do, and I need to change my life and all these things." And I was thinking, what is that word you just used? What is prophesied? That's not a verb that I've ever heard. Wrong conjugation. So I didn't know what to think about that, but what I witnessed in his life was a lot of concrete changes. Basically, some of them overnight. Yeah.
Good, wonderful changes.
Yeah. He went from smoking pot all the time, constantly, to not touching it again. And that was pretty remarkable. I grew up around surfers and skaters, and that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So
to make a big change like that.
Yeah, and not go back and not be fighting it. You can quit things cold turkey, but that's an unusual, immediate change of habits that was noticeable.
And something had to have happened that brought that about.
Yeah.
Something dynamic, something dramatic.
Yeah, something I had never seen that kind of change before.
It's kind of like in my life. I mean, I've been in church all my life, but it wasn't real, and I didn't really clue into it at all, and didn't know the Bible, didn't know what was in the Bible, and yet thought I was a Christian. And then I met some people that were so different. I kept thinking, if you're a Christian and I'm a Christian, but you've got something I don't have, I want it. I liked it. And it changed my life. It was just the same 180-degree change, just like lightning hits you. Well, now what was God's design for you? What was His destiny for you?
Yeah.
Was it fashion?
The fashion is a vehicle. And as you said, He made me how I am, with lots of quirks and talents and passions. There's some things you just love. And I love traveling. I love meeting new people from new cultures. I also love fashion. And so what I have seen with what God does with me, I had to first rely on Him all the way. Because when I started following God and saying, okay, I'm believing this. Okay, this is for me. But I wasn't sold out, as they say. So I gave Him a lot of my life, but not everything. So every success I would have in my career, which was just starting then, it really started within a week or so after I got baptized, which I didn't realize the timing of that until later. But so He eventually, when I would follow His lead, little by little, and when I would finally give it up and say, okay, I didn't do that, but God did that. That was a big change for me. At those points, God finally started actually putting all these things together. So you could say fashion is a calling for me, but it's actually people are calling for me. And the vehicle is fashion.
It's fashion.
Because it's something I'm naturally good at and something I love doing. And He puts all those things together in a way I didn't think of it. I wouldn't have
Mariah,
thought.
the hardest thing for me to grasp was that if I give God everything, I'm not going to like it.
Yeah.
It's going to be something I don't like, and I don't get to do what I really want to do.
Yeah.
Instead, I've gotten to do what I wanted to do on steroids.
Yeah.
That's the best. I mean, way above. Doors have opened for me. You can't even explain how they got opened. And you can only say God did it. But what kind of challenges have you encountered in putting your faith with the fashion world? Has it been easy? Is it?
No, it's constant challenges. And as you said, when you're afraid to give things to God and know that He's going to give something back to you that you want, and you're afraid of how much are you going to take of that. So I actually have to do that with my fashion career all the time and say, okay, God, it's yours. If you want to take it away, I will do something else. If you need that, that's fine.
But He doesn't ever do it. It just increases it.
Right. But if I put it, if I say, okay, God, make my fashion career great, whatever, in your will, I'm still saying you must give me a fashion career.
Oh,
and so I
got
hold
it.
on to it so tightly
Got
that
it.
I'm not willing to see where he moves me. I learned I found some of the challenges straight away, even believing God in the first place. But having, and I've mentioned to you having a series of nightmares, that really was what drew me not to just casually believe there's a God, but to actually depend on him.
Okay, now explain that.
I was baptized and decided I'm going to follow Jesus. This is what I'm going to do. It feels right in my heart. It feels right in my spirit. I'm going to give that a chance. So I did that casually. But there was a point that I said, I just want to think about the positive things. And, there's people have all this scary demonic stuff to talk about, but I just want to talk about the positive things. God is love. And God is love. But just 2 nights after that, I had the worst nightmares. Like I'm being killed, I'm being choked, it's my last breath. And in that last breath, out came the word Jesus, and then I woke up and I knew that was the answer. That is the reason that I can hold on so tightly today. It didn't just happen one time. I wish it was that easy. I had nightmares for weeks. I was not sleeping for more than a month. And so out of desperation, I kept calling out the name Jesus, and then I started opening the Bible and finding anything I could. And just finding different passages. Ephesians 6, I read all the time. And then finally one night, I was so tired, and I had just found a church, and I was just starting to go, and it had only been a few weeks. And I had shared the nightmares with some of the people there. And I was going to bed, and I was exhausted, and I just needed rest.
And I bet you dreaded going to bed because you were afraid you'd have the nightmares.
I didn't want to turn off the light.
Yeah.
I most of the time would just leave it on. And so I went to sleep, and I said, God, I just want to rest. I just want to sleep. And so I had a dream. It was just as you're falling asleep, it feels awake almost. I had a dream that I was surrounded by a giant pair of wings. And I could feel the warmth of the feathers on my cheek is how real it felt. And I slept so well. And the next day I woke up and I went to church, and I was like, okay, should I tell my new friends about this? I was like, hey, you guys, I had a dream. Those nightmares. So I told them about it, and they said, Psalm 91, that's Psalm 91. I was like, okay, I don't know. So then later I went and read it, and it says, I will protect you with my feathers. I will cover you with my wings.
Wow.
I never
and you
read that
experienced
before.
it. So many people don't think the Bible's for today. They think, oh, it's old, and it doesn't affect life now. I mean, it's too old. No, it is so real. It's more current than the latest thing happening.
Yeah, I would say just try it, because you don't get to fully experience unless you say, I'm going to fully try it. So
that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I really understand that. As long as you're saying, okay, God bless this. This is what I'm going to do, God bless it. It's not the same, is it?
Right.
You got to say, all right, whatever you want, I'm going to do it. In fact, I heard this guy say one time, give God a blank piece of paper and sign your name at the bottom and say, you fill it in and I'll do it.
Yeah.
I remember thinking about that. Can you really do that? What would happen to your life? And it was so life-changing for me to do that, that even though I've been in church all my life, called myself a Christian, been baptized, everything you're talking about, I felt like I just got to know God. I was 26 years old, and I was just getting to know God. And I know exactly what you're talking about. It's scary. It's like jumping off the high board. Remember when you used to do that? It was like, oh, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it.
I try to avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And then it's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. In your career, being different, wanting to be unique, loving fashion, being in different aspects of fashion, what kind of wisdom have you gotten from dealing with people?
Yeah.
All kinds of people. You say you deal with all kinds of people. I'd like to know, what have you learned about dealing with them? What have you learned about handling them under pressure?
Yeah. Always be nice. It sounds simple. I know it doesn't sound easy because it's not always easy. And especially, as I said, growing up kind of cynical, you tend to expect the worst out of people, and they can follow through with that, and they can give you the worst. But when you let that just roll right off your back, and you start out assuming that you're going to get the best from somebody, and even if you don't, still being kind, it makes all the difference. It has changed my relationships in the world. It gets me all of my work, all referrals. People want to be around you if you're kind to them.
And if you're positive, even when it's hard.
Yeah, and we tend to think that that means you're stupid. That, oh, you're being positive, you sound stupid. Well, I'm not being stupid. I'm actually just seeing all of those sides and choosing that I might not know the whole picture. And so I'm going to assume that there might be some really good reason for why they're acting that way, and give them the benefit of the doubt. And I hope somebody will do the same for me someday, you know.
Well, I've learned that it really is true. Mm-hmm. You find out what else is going on in their life, and you go, well, good grief, no wonder they're acting like that.
Yeah.
I probably would too.
Yeah. And there's also the common denominator. People get used to acting a certain way. And, you know, I look different when I show up on a photo shoot, though. I fit right in visually. I have tattoos, and I've got, you know, I'm a little funky. I dress funky. I do fit in, but I don't try to fit in the deep spiritual ways. I make sure that it comes out, my strong belief in God, but not in a distancing way. I just want people to know that I'm just like them, and it's okay to believe in God, and it's okay to follow Him.
Can you imagine you came from an atheist, agnostic background where there was just no consideration for God, and now you're 100% committed?
Yeah.
That is proof there really is a God.
Yeah.
You can't see Him, but you can't see the wind.
Yeah.
And you have proof that there's wind, right?
Right.
Well, you can have proof there's God. And you can say to God, just show me the truth about you. I want to know. Well, have you ever had times of being really discouraged or wanting to give up in your even working with people or your worldwide travels or?
Yeah. In those days, I have some days or some longer periods. I've had, you know, I don't suffer from a lot of depression, but I've had some periods where I stay in bed all day and, you know, sobbing about, I can think of a million things in the world to sob about. But in those days, I just try to ask God what He's trying to show me. Maybe something that's I'm holding on to too tightly, or something, maybe it's an unhealthy relationship. And that's not about that other person. That's about how I'm seeing them or how I'm treating them. Maybe I'm, you know, holding on to too tightly or something like that. Maybe it's distracting me from other things I'm supposed to do. Or maybe a lot of times it will be dissatisfied if I have an idea of something I want to do and it's taking a long time. You know, I want to travel to this place. I want to be in a time in my life when I can just go there or whatever, and it's taking so long, it doesn't look like in the natural it's going to happen. Maybe it's even happening for people around me.
That's when it's the hardest, isn't it? When you have this dream in your heart and you see other people getting to do their dream.
Yeah.
And you're going, what's wrong with me? I mean,
Yeah.
why not me? Yeah. So, Mariah, I know people are watching you that are going, wait a minute, this is making some sense to me. This is maybe the first person I've ever talked to that admitted I didn't believe, and things began to happen in my 30s. Sometimes it's really late for people. I feel like there's someone watching this show right now, you're saying, it's really late for me. Oh my goodness, if you knew my life, it is so late. Well, I want to tell you something. It's never too late. It's never too late to correct a mistake. It's never too late to start walking with God, because it's worth it. He loves you. He wants to help you. He's not going to ask you to be one of those phony Christians that are like a hypocrite and they're judgmental. I don't like them. Jesus doesn't like them. You don't like them. That's not it. There is the real deal. And you can pray and say, God, if you're real, show me. And if you show me, I will give you all of my life. I will give you a blank piece of paper. I will literally sign my name at the bottom of it, and I'll let you put me wherever you need me. But God, I want the real thing. I want the authentic thing. And I promise you, He'll give it to you, and you'll be so glad you did it. Mariah did it in her 30s. I did it in my 20s. You can do it at any age. There's even a little child walking around right through the living room right now. And all of a sudden, you're looking at the TV screen, and you don't realize it, but I'm talking to you. God knows you're a child, but God knows what you've had to go through. He knows what you've had to endure that nobody knows, but God knows it, and God wants to help you. And if you'll just say, God, I'm just a little child, but I need your help. I need you in my life, God. Please come into my life and help me. I promise you, He will. And you'll be so glad. It'll be the greatest thing you ever did with your life. So bye, and I'll see you next time.